Welcome to the ultimate iPhone 16 battery test. Let's unplug them and jump right in. We got all the new iPhone 16s here, the 16 Pro Max, 16 Pro, 16 Plus, and the regular 16, but of course also all the iPhone 15s and a 14 Pro Max and a regular 14. This will be a very interesting test because Apple claims they have big boosts in battery life, and like every year, the brand new iPhone 16 Pro Max has the best battery life ever on an iPhone. What a big surprise. But let's see if that's actually true. And if that's true, how good is the battery life? Of course, all of them are also running the new iOS 18. That will also be interesting to see if there's any optimizations or if that's even decreased the battery life on some of these older models. Now we will of course be pushing all these phones to the limit, to decide which is the ultimate iPhone battery champ. So far the new iPhone 16s are ahead, as they should be, but there's plenty of time still to go. As always, all of them are on the exact same Wi-Fi network with Bluetooth and location enabled. There's no SIM card in either of them, and I've matched the brightness using a light meter to be as exact as possible, and auto brightness is also turned off, so they're consistently at the same exact brightness level. So far they're all doing pretty well. The 16 Pro Max and 16 Plus are neck and neck for the lead. The iPhone 15 Pro and the 14 Pro Max are actually tied in last place, which is kind of surprising. We did increase the pressure a bit with some gaming, and after that round the regular 14 is now starting to also fall behind a little bit. But on the other end of the spectrum, the 16 Pro Max has extended upon its lead. If we're being honest, the iPhone 16 lineup is a very boring upgrade. Not much has changed, especially not on the regular non-Pro models. They're pretty much the exact same device as the 15s are. The Pro models are also a boring upgrade, don't get me wrong, but they've increased the screen sizes. The phones are actually physically bigger, so it's interesting to see if the bigger battery can make up for the bigger screen, which of course consumes more battery. Apple claims to have better battery life around the board, and that's just because they've put in bigger batteries. It's as simple as that. Of course, I'm not complaining. A bigger battery is always better, and the results speak for themselves. Now we've increased the intensity of this test with some TikTok and now some 4K video recording, which is pretty much one of the most intense things you can do on a phone. It's interesting to see that the 16 Plus has decreased the gap a little bit between it and the 16 Pro Max. Maybe because the Pro cameras use a little more battery. I'm really not sure. And you can start to see some major differences here now. And the 15 Pro is really starting to fall behind. It now has a 5% gap between it and the 14 Pro Max, which is only 1% behind the regular 14. Now, if you're wondering why the 14 Pro Max and also the 15 Pro Max are not doing so well, that's because both phones have been used for a year. They're the only two phones that are not brand new, and they have a battery health of 93%. It's not great that after only a year, battery health decreased by already 7%, which is quite a lot. I just wanted to be transparent with you guys, and that's why both phones are not performing as well as they could. The phones have been tortured for 4.5 hours now. We're gonna do a standby test, and this time around we're actually gonna do a longer standby test of around 16 hours. Now, no matter which of these iPhones you will end up getting, you're gonna wanna protect your iPhone, and the Torras O-Stand spin case is the perfect case to do that. It's more than just a case. It's a protective case, MagSafe, a kickstand, and a grip in one. Of course, you also don't have to worry about any drops or scratches. It's got raised edges all around, and it will definitely keep your phone safe. Now, you're also gonna wanna get a screen protector. I know it's tempting to use your phone naked, but the Torras screen protector has saved my phone countless times over the last year. I'm pretty rough with my phone. I throw it around quite a bit, and without the screen protector, it would have been absolutely wrecked. Apart from keeping your phone safe, the best part about it is how easy it is to apply. Literally, I've never had any screen protector that installs so easily. All you have to do is snap it on, pull. It's really that simple. Now finally, even though they're still doing pretty well in this battery test, you can always have more battery life, and here is where the Torras Mini Mag power bank comes in. It's a super slim MagSafe compatible charger, and it can charge your phone up to 100% in just 2 hours. All three products are linked below. Make sure to go check them out. Thanks to Torras for sponsoring this part of the video. Now let's get back to the battery test. The results of the standby test were quite interesting. The 16 Plus actually did the best, losing only 7%, while the others lost around 10 usually, but some even lost up to like 14%, which is really not good. The percentages are plummeting 5 hours into the test, plus of course the standby time. The 15 Pro only has 22% remaining, while the 16 Pro Max, the leader, has over 30% more at 54%. That's insane. Now, before some of these phones start dying, let's still do some performance tests. The new iPhone 16s get the new A18 chip. The Pros get the A18 Pro chip. But to be honest, all of these devices perform pretty well. I mean, if you look at the results, sure, the newer models, especially the Pros, are better, but you really won't be able to tell. Especially all the iPhone 15s perform insanely well still, and the iPhone 14s are not slow by any means. So really wouldn't purchase any of the new ones just because of their performance. And that's something that was upgraded was the RAM. The base 16s now also come with 8 GB of RAM, and that is because of the new Apple Intelligence features, which supposedly needs 8 gigs of RAM. I'm not sure. It will be available through a software update for the 15 Pros, which also have 8 gigs of RAM, but not for the regular 15s or any older models because they have less than that. Kind of a bummer. I'm not sure if that's really necessary or just Apple gatekeeping, so you purchase a more expensive device, but there you go. These performance tests are insanely intense on the battery, and we've had some phones hit single digits. We're gonna continue with some browsing tests. Now, all the displays are really good. I think the notch on the regular 14 looks a bit old, but it's still a great screen, and all of them are definitely good enough for any kind of media consumption or just pretty much anything you're doing on your phone. Sure, the newer ones get a little brighter, and the Pro models have even slimmer bezels, but I mean, at this point, if you're being honest, it doesn't really matter. The big issue is still the refresh rate. The new non-Pro models still come with a 60 Hz display, which is insane. A $900 phone in 2024 with a 60 Hz screen. I mean, come on, Apple. What are we doing? All the Pros going back to the iPhone 13 have had a 120 Hz display, but 120 Hz should not be available to all the peasants, according to Apple. So if you want that, you're still gonna have to purchase a Pro. I personally really like the size of the 16 Pro. I think that's a perfect size. A 6.3-inch display is really, really comfortable in the hand. It's a great size, but the new 16 Pro Max is pushing things. Pretty much nothing else changed with the screens. They still can dynamically adjust between 1 and 120 Hz according to what's on screen to conserve some battery life. By now, some phones have already died. The 16 and the 16 Pro are tied. It's gonna be a close one, which will come in first. And I mean, the 16 Pro Max is doing incredibly well. It still has 30% remaining, which at this point is just insane. If you've seen some of my previous battery tests, and if you're wondering why these phones aren't lasting as long as in previous battery tests, that's just because this test is a little more intense than previous battery tests have been. All right, let's speed things up and finally get to the results. This took freaking forever. I actually had to move some of my plans because the stupid iPhone 16 Pro Max just refused to die. In last place, at 6 hours and 2 minutes, we actually have the iPhone 15 Pro. I've heard people complain about the battery life on the 15 Pro, and last year the regular 15 definitely did beat the 15 Pro, so that's still consistent. But once again, this is a brand new phone. It has 100% battery health. If you want a small Pro phone, you're probably gonna have to go with the 16 Pro because this is not a good result. Next up is the iPhone 14 at 6 hours and 30 minutes. An okay result, but if you're being honest, still not great. I mean, it is the most affordable phone on this table, so no shame there. But if you want to use a phone a lot, I still probably wouldn't recommend this phone. By the way, the iPhone 13 is the exact same phone pretty much as the iPhone 14, so you can save yourself some money there, or even go for an iPhone 13 Pro instead, maybe a refurbished one. Next up at 6 hours and 54 minutes is the iPhone 15. We're approaching decent battery life now. I mean, quite a bit better than the 15 Pro. It's a great all-rounder phone, but if you're a heavy user, I'd still probably skip this one. Next up is the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and this is pretty sad to see. But I've been using this phone for a year as my main phone, and unfortunately this is pretty much in line with what my experience has been. In the recent months, battery life has decreased quite a bit, and I'm not too happy about it. To be fair, it only has 93% battery health, so this is not a perfectly accurate result. If you'd add the missing 7% to the result, it'd be close to around 7.5 hours. Still, that wouldn't be an amazing result, and I know that's not how batteries work. And in Mr. Who's the Boss battery test, it did perform quite a bit better, so maybe it's just my device. Next up, and this was kind of weird, the iPhone 14 Pro Max. At 7 hours and 31 minutes, still not an incredible result, but not bad. And in the beginning, it was trailing behind quite a bit, and in the end, it kind of made up for it. Kind of surprising that with the same battery health of 93%, it beat out the 15 Pro Max. Up next is the iPhone 16 at 7 hours and 40 minutes, a decent result and a pretty big increase over its predecessor, the iPhone 15. So definitely recommend this phone. Definitely not much has changed, but battery life is quite a bit better. Lasting just 2 minutes longer is the iPhone 16 Pro. Pretty much neck and neck. There's no real difference. Kind of sad to see that if you spend like $300 more, you don't get any better battery life, but I guess nice that the bigger screen doesn't decrease the battery life, and that this year the Pro model is at least up to par with the regular non-Pro model as opposed to with the iPhone 15s. If I had brand new models of the 15 Pro Max and the 14 Pro Max, these would slot in right here. But now let's get to the actual big boys, the iPhone 15 Plus. At 8 hours and 54 minutes, This is now very good battery life. Last year it was the iPhone with the best battery life, and this will definitely last you all day. The iPhone 16 Plus did manage to beat it at 9 hours and 17 minutes, which is nice to see that despite it being pretty much the exact same phone as the 15 Plus, it does have better battery life, and it's also awesome to see that it has a 1.5 hour longer battery life than the regular 16. But coming in at first place, no surprise here, the iPhone 16 Pro Max at 9 hours and 46 minutes. It's a great result. This will definitely last you all day, and if you want the best battery life on any iPhone, in fact, if you want the best iPhone available, this is the one to choose. Of course, it's insanely expensive, and I personally think it's getting too big now. The 15 Pro Max was already pushing it, but Apple did deliver. It has the best battery life on any iPhone ever. It also beat its smaller sibling by more than 2 hours, and it's also nice to see that if you pay for the most expensive iPhone, you will also get the best battery life, as opposed to last year where the Plus model was better than the Pro Max. Now, what do you guys think of these results? Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to check out Torras, also linked below, the sponsor of this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.